Welcome to WandaVision, episode 6, thoughts. So, spoilers for the MCU leading up to this point, including this episode. And also, I will be discussing theories that might spoil upcoming episodes in this video, so there you are. As usual, I recommend videos talking about Easter eggs and such on the show, especially videos made by new rock stars, Screen Rant, Nerdist, and Screen Crush. Very Malcolm in the Middle opening, and yeah. I this was probably this was the episode where I was most like, okay, this I know. Very Malcolm in the Middle episode and opening, and yeah, like if you haven't already, just like I would be shocked if YouTube didn't have at least some videos with the opening of Malcolm in the Middle. Watch that and then watch on Disney Plus the opening of this episode. Yeah, the opening's very similar, and it's very I they did a really great job. I did not expect that they were able to pull Wanda so much towards. I want to say her name was Lois, the mother on Malcolm in the Middle, and Vision so close. I mean, there's there's definitely some notes in there of a pre-Breaking Bad. I don't remember his name, but yeah, he was on Breaking Bad. He was on Malcolm in the Middle, the father on Malcolm in the Middle. So yeah, in Paul Bettany's performance. So yeah, and the lyrics in the opening, you know, there's this stuff about it may all be an illusion. Don't question what you've done, and something chaos. And I forget exactly what I think is maybe the chaos magic. I don't remember. Chaos fits into Wanda's powers. I'm pretty sure there's something there, and excuse me. I do clear my throat before I hit record. Sometimes it's just not quite enough. And the kids don't talk directly to the camera, very Malcolm in the Middle also. And I will say it is a little like I guess the more confident one is like Malcolm, and no, that's I mean, who was the dork in that show? I guess Malcolm was dorkier than Reese. I'm not sure how much there is of the Stewie. No, wait, no, that's not. Whatever, the youngest kid. Anyway, there's a little bit of Malcolm in both of them, a little bit of Reese in both of them. And just like the opening sequence told us, Pietro is the cool uncle, and you know, I don't think there was an actual cool uncle on Malcolm in the Middle, but I think I heard someone say that like Full House, Uncle Jesse was like a cool. I haven't watched that show since the '90s, so I could not tell you at all. Excuse me. And Wanda claims that her costume, which is comic accurate, is a Sokovian fortune teller, which I hadn't actually I wasn't entirely I figured that well yeah, that's a reference to like her background. One of the Easter egg video people pointed out that like her parents in the comics were like Romani or something, and we see a flashback to you know actually, was that when we got the yeah, I think that was when we got the childhood flashback. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, the flashback thing is also very Malcolm in the Middle, and yeah. Let's see. And I like the bit with like Pietro is just slightly awake, and he hears that they're like debating on whether or not to wake him up and such, and then they have the thing about like he's sleeping in, so you think he's a vampire, and I hadn't quite one of the Easter egg people pointed out he is undead. He's not a vampire. He's closer to a zombie than a vampire, but he is undead. So it is, and there's that great line about raise hell, you spawn of the devil or devil spawn, something like that. Demon spawn, which obviously references Mephisto, because in the comics they are the spawn of Mephisto. In a yeah, and and what is that? And yeah, Vision says some. Well, Wanda, I know you love Mexican wrestlers. He kind of does look like a Mexican wrestler. Yeah, I like all these meta jokes at the expense of the comic accurate costumes. Another, and yeah, I legitimately like. I love the comics, but I know that the bright colors of those. I mean, would not work well in live action. We gotta remember that one of the reasons for like the bright colors in comics is in part if you see a comic book cover and it's like the Hulk and he's gray, it's like, oh, okay. But if he's like green or red, it's like, oh wow, I gotta see what that that like it captures your eye, and like if you have like a huge splash page and it's like this major thing where like X-Men and Avengers are all involved in the same battle, then it's good to have like even if someone is small in the image, you can immediately say, okay, let's see. Oh yeah, that's the that color combination, really pops out. So that's who that is. And the the live action movies don't really have that problem. There's enough like they use camera movement to make sure that you know who is involved. And well, actually, yeah, there is that one. In Infinity War, you see like a purple, like sort of uh, burst of energy, and it's like, oh, is that's uh, like Panther. Just did the yeah. I mean, technically, in Malcolm in the Middle, if I recall, it was the oldest brother, not the uncle that was cool, but it still works. He's definitely like 100%. Evan Peters picked some cues up from the performance. I don't remember his name, but he's also in like Scary Movie 2, I think, but I haven't watched that in ages either. And yeah, but there's definitely again just look up clips. There's definitely some some facial little yeah, and there's still sort of an argument going on between Wanda and Vision, and it's like that gradually it is bothering him more and more and comes up earlier and earlier in the episodes. I love how different Pietro's performance than either of the Pietros we've seen before. Like it's again, I'm broken record at this point. YouTube find clips, compare and contrast. They're hugely different. American-born Peter in the Fox X-Men movies did not behave like this, talk like this, and neither did uh, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I want to say Age of Ultron Pietro. And now Pietro is also in a comic accurate costume, and like the speedster kid is also in. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's closer to Vision's Pietro's costume than the. Is he called Speed and Wiccan? Or that what the? I don't. It's been a really long time since I used to know this stuff, but and yeah, they're continuing the thing of every other scene is sitcom, every other scene is sword right outside of the force field, and Hayward continues to focus on trying to take out Wanda, and Hayward talks about the trauma of having lived through the dusting, and I'm really looking forward to us seeing more of that because we kind of haven't. In Endgame it just jumps past, and then like once we're on the other side of the 5 years, it's not actually very long before Scott Lang returns and gets to the Avengers and tells them, "I think we have a shot at fixing this." So we don't see that, but we see a little bit of the aftermath of the trauma. But it's just a matter of time before the MCU is going to show us some of what it was like to live during that time. And I can imagine it was like uh, Black Widow in Endgame, before the time skip, says, it looks like Thanos did exactly what he wanted to do, 50% of all. And as part of that, right before she says that, she says, a lot of the countries of the world, the government has collapsed. And, the ones that survived have, tried to get a head count on how many people are alive in their country. That's how we know 50%. Imagine living in a country that's collapsed, especially if it's from one day to the next. Imagine like you're in a place you go to frequently. Maybe you're eating dinner at a restaurant, maybe you're at home with your family, and just suddenly people start collapsing into dust. And within, ultimately, I feel like they probably fairly quickly managed to communicate to as many people, internet. They communicated to people, this is exactly what happened. But if a bunch of government people suddenly disappeared, what, like, you can imagine that they didn't manage to arrange proper elections. They couldn't hold these people accountable. So the people who took power were the kinds of people who've been waiting for a chance to take power. And just like, we're talking like within a really short amount of time, of a developed country could turn into a failed state. That, and Hayward lived through that, so you can understand. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, just because the MCU is getting so, so good at these really emotionally impactful. I realize I'm sounding like I'm not going to enjoy the pain, obviously, but the just, yeah, I, it's it's something we haven't seen that much of in the MCU so far. Mostly it's like, well, there are problems, yes, but then, Iron Man flies in, lands, shoots a bunch of people, flies away again, and things are fixed. What else? That solves every problem. Vigilantism is supposed to just, that's the kind of the conceit. They don't question it all that much, because then have to you basically have to stop. And yeah, with the the dusting and the blip are clearly traumatic, and living for those 5 years between them, yeah, it must have been horrifying, and just, yeah. And he fires the trio of Wu, Rambeau, and Dr. Lewis, and Wu and Monica fight off Haywood's guards stealthily. It's technically our first real action scene on this show, so. But I can imagine that some of the last episodes will have more of that now that there's more conflict between them. And yeah, we're back to the sitcom world. Malcolm in the Middle did do a Halloween episode, I'm almost certain. In fact, I think one of the jokes was that they didn't do it on Halloween because, like, for some, yeah, like the oldest brother was home because he's in like military school, I think, on the show, and he doesn't get to go home all the time, so he's home. It's not Halloween, but he wants to celebrate Halloween, and he keeps saying, as long as there's a child out there who's terrified, that's Halloween. And Reese keeps being like, no, yeah. He starts by saying, Halloween is not just a day in the calendar, and Reese is like, yeah, yeah, it is. Look, Halloween, as long as there's a kid out there who's terrified, that's Halloween. No, look, it's what is it? August 31st. I don't know. I don't celebrate Halloween, so I don't know. I know, blasphemy. I'm a little old for trick or treating, as you can probably, yeah. And I don't have kids of my own, so it gets creepy after a while if you're out there trick or treating. Anyway, yeah, October 30th. No, wait, it is, isn't it? October 31st is Halloween. That's it. Sorry, been a while. Yeah, yeah. He. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't remember what the kid was called. Let's call him. Military Academy. Military Academy keeps saying this, and Reese is like, look, it's right. It's on the calendar, okay? It's right. Okay, he doesn't quite go that. It's a bit. It's right here on the calendar, October 31st, and Military Academy is like this. I can't believe this guy, and yeah, he gets them to do Halloween stuff without it being on Halloween, and it is, yeah, there's some similarities between that and then this episode. Why do you look different? And they say kick ass. I think first Pietro says, and then Wanda repeats it, and Evan Peters was in that movie, and so was Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I think they were some of the stars. Once again, been a while. And Pietro and the twins steal candy, destroy jack-o'-lanterns, and covers everyone's silly string. And Herb keeps getting the information right before it actually happens. Very, there's the what's it called, rubber band reality. Excuse me, of shows like The Simpsons also exists on shows like Malcolm in the existed. It's no longer running. And Wanda learns that Vision isn't actually doing the neighborhood watch thing as he said he would be, and others have pointed out there's actually also earlier in the episode when he tells her that he's going to be doing the neighborhood watch thing, she's like, she almost comes out and says, but that's not what I told you to do. With the tele, yeah, telepathy, mind powers. She wanted him to do one specific thing, and he's like doing some, and some of the Easter egg people, theorize she's gradually losing control over him because early on, yeah, she could, she things went the way she wanted largely. At worst, what would happen was sitcom shenanigans. It didn't break the show early, at first, but then gradually more and more breaks in the show, and now Vision is getting better and better at getting out of the, yeah, getting free of her control. What's wrong, Wanda? Want anything changed? That sounds distinctly like he knows that there's magic. But of course, you could also read it as him offering to help with some, like the yeah. So really really great. Again, and Vision comes across the woman. I yeah. The she's like trying to, is it what's it called, Halloween decoration. She's trying to finish, but she keeps repeating and not quite finishing it. She's like glitching, and we see this one tear that streams down, and that's so freaking horrifying. Just think about, it's literally, she knows that there's something wrong, but she can't break out. And so the one thing that can, the one thing that isn't trapped completely by the glitch is the one tear. And Jake, she might have been standing there for hours and just, oh, it must be just absolutely horrifying. The show is incredibly good at this. And then we get the ad, and it's this snack food, and we've got like, what's it called? Claymation. I don't. Was that a? Yeah, I think that was a thing. Yeah, I think there were some of them that were claymation in the '90s, because if you're only doing a short ad, then it's not. And a claymation short movie or a claymation feature length movie, those are somewhat more rare. Because it is very time consuming, and yeah. But no, and it's like, it's like a shark that jumps out and offer, because it of course has like this, um the snack food has a cool mascot, and it's something that a kid would think is cool. Like, you can imagine like a kid saying, "Oh, talking shark," and if a talking shark, it gives a kid something, for sure the kid is going to be into it. So, and the project is called Yo Magic. So magic is being offered to and there, different people have different theories. Is the kid that then goes on to starve to death, is that Wanda, who's trying to grieve by using magic, but it's not enough, so she slowly comes apart? Is it Vision, which Wanda's trying to keep him alive, but the magic eventually wears off, and because that is what happens later in the episode, he starts coming apart, and let's see, I feel like there's one more thing, but I forget. And some have pointed out, it seems like time is sped up on the island because this kid starves to death and becomes a skeleton extremely quickly. I was wondering if the kid is supposed to be glitching because it seems like he's. I don't know. I'm not 100% certain. Why was he couldn't open? I mean, I guess like he was trying to pull, was the idea that it was too tight that he couldn't pull it? Maybe, I mean, if he's been stuck on a deserted island, he's starving, he might not have a lot of strength left. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but yeah, another, others have pointed out they're getting distinctly more creepy and off-putting. Like, early on it was like, it's a toaster, it's a watch, it's a break from, it's Calgon, Take Me Away, or whatever it was called, thing. But then it's like, Lagos, for when you make a mess you didn't mean to, and there's this, like, it almost looks like blood, and the thing isn't soaking up all of it, so some of the blood starts to run off. It's just, and now we have this kid dying, and because it's claymation, it's got, like, if you saw that live action, you would be like, oh, how is this on TV, but claymation, I mean, I've seen some really messed up things in claymation that were allowed as kids. I'm not making excuses for it. I don't think it's okay, but for some reason, it's considered okay as long as there's not like blood or gore. But seeing some really messed up stuff, yeah, I distinctly remember seeing some really really messed up claymation things where, yeah. Anyway, as a kid, maybe they don't show them anymore. And yeah, the you know, is it Wanda, Pietro, and the kids, I think, are leaving the Coronet movie theater, which is showing The Incredibles and The Parent Trap, both of which help inform this show. You've got the twins that are trying, that are like scheming to try to get their parents back together, and you've got yeah, Incredibles is a family of all magic, super powered individuals, so, and I saw someone point out it's probably the 1998 Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap, not the 1960s, since this episode is set in the 90s, and I agree, that's probably it. And let's see, I feel like 2004 was the first Incredibles, so yeah, it's, I guess it's like I mean, time works weird inside the force field, so I feel like it works. Let's see. And Wanda forces them to return all the candy. That's what you wanted, isn't it? And both of them realize the other one lost their accent, and Wanda and Pietro, I mean, and Pietro says something like, "Details are fuzzy," and it's again this thing of like, I'm sorry, but if I could not remember the details of something that important, and I mean, some of the details he's talking about were like very recently, like, in like, technically the episode where he arrived was like the day before, right? So he can't remember something from the day before. I mean, I guess if he's like hugely hungover, but he seems fairly clear-headed for a lot of this episode. So yeah, it's like, are you not worried? Like, there might be I mean, memory trouble. Again, broken record. I already talked about this in like the one of the earlier, because in episode one they also have memory problems. But yeah, like, memory problems is it's a sign of, you know there are various like brain conditions that it could be a sign of. So It's not something to just laugh off or be like, eh, you know, I got shot like a chump in the street. Next thing I heard you calling me, you need me, and yeah, we see one of the twins has super speed like in the comics. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to remember their names anytime soon. It's you might as well get used to it. And Wanda tells, I think his, I think the comic book alter ego is Speed. Wanda tells Speed, take his brother with him when he speeds off, which is, the it's a neat little like you know like if they were real kids, I feel like if one of them could run faster than the other, she would be telling them, I know you can run faster, but walk with your brother, don't lose him. So it's a super powered version of that. And she starts to say, don't go past, and they say, don't go past Alice Avenue, which again, it's this brilliant thing. I love this show so much. I love the MCU so much. In real life, parents tell their kids, don't go past this, and don't go into the this or that particular area of the city, because the parents know that it's dangerous, and they maybe don't tell the kids exactly what might happen, but just it's dangerous to go that far, because it's like the parents know that's a bad neighborhood. It's there's drugs, there's crime, and yeah, it is like if you watched that clip and you had no idea that something like let's hypothetically, actually, I kind of recommend you do that. Like, find someone who knows nothing about the MCU and just show them that little clip and see if they at all realize that there's something sinister going on, because it's just, we the audience know that's where the force field ends, isn't it? That's going to be like it's just it's so good. And Dr. Lewis is still upset that Pietro looks different. And she gets past the firewall so they can see Hayward's data. These people near the edge of town are barely moving. Are they alive? And it's and yeah, as we see when Vision, we see that they're glitching. That's why they're barely moving. And yeah, he comes up to the area where people are just barely moving, and it's unbelievably just seeing this, like, there's maybe a dozen people or more, and they're just standing there, and they're clearly like in the middle of a movement. Like, they're not just standing regular, like with hands down their sides. No, they're partially moving, but they've stopped, and it's yeah. Or it's that thing, what was it called, like statue challenge. I'm not, I can't keep up with all the trends and challenge, on social media. And Vision changes his appearance back to what he normally looks like, his Avengers uniform, and flies up in the air, looks across the suburbs, and finds a car that isn't moving, and Agnes in the driver's seat. But she can still move and talk at least a little bit. Took a wrong turn. Got lost. Shouldn't have made that left at Albuquerque. And Vision wakes up Agnes, and she recognizes him as Vision, an Avenger, but he doesn't remember the Avengers. And I really love the clip of him. Am I dead? No. Why would you think that? Because you are. And I didn't really, now we see the full thing. Because I'm what? Dead. No one leaves. She won't even let us think about it. All is lost. And she laughs maniacally, so Vision puts her back in sitcom state. And she's actually talking like in one of the older sitcom eras. Like, she doesn't really sound that much like a 90s cool aunt babysitter. It's closer to like the 60s maybe, so Or is that just that's how her character talks? Anyway. And we see they are, in fact, on Ellis Avenue. There's a stop sign, and yeah, Vision, of course, starts to go past, and yeah, and it cuts back to Sword before we see him reach the force field. But yeah, it's very clear. Wanda controls Westview, but she doesn't control near the edge of the force field. Once you get close enough to the force field, people start glitching, and she doesn't really have any control of that. And Agnes basically was, I mean, yeah, I guess, does it, was she, Vision points out, how could you get lost? You've been living here your whole life, which, that's also, we still don't know if she has or not, but he thinks that she has. The sitcom says that she has, but let's see, I'm not sure if she was trying to leave the force field, because she does say that Wanda won't even let them think about that kind of thing, and I don't know, I can imagine that it just, yeah, she accidentally got too close to the force field. But again, it is, it sounds like she isn't really part of what's going on. She's just going along with it out of fear of Wanda. But I can't help but wonder if it's like a misdirect. That we're supposed to think that in reality it's, yeah, I don't know. And Dr. Lewis explains Monica has her cells change when she goes through the force field, and she's been through it twice now. And Monica relates that to her mother's cancer and says she won't stop until Wanda has, you know, I forget exactly what she said, but like when Wanda is no longer doing the, yeah, and and the yeah, I'm not the first to point out. Sounds like that's how she got her powers. It's possible she hasn't gotten them now, or it's possible that they'll only come, they'll manifest a little later or something. But the let me think. And it's also possible that she needs to go through the force field at least once more, because it's, she wants to go in. Yeah, but wait, yeah, she's going to use the vehicle though. So hypothetically, they should be safe from the radiation of the force field. Anyway, but and I saw at least one person say that when Wanda expands the force field at the end, she's going to be creating mutants. That's how the mutant, the mutant X gene is unlocked in people, is by her expanding the force field to what's it called? It covers the people that I could see that. Yeah, I figure it's that, or it's the three snaps with the gauntlet. Since we know that releases a certain amount of four, I guess. Yeah, yeah. Thanos uses it to yeah, snap away 50% of all living beings in the universe. Then he snaps it again to destroy the stones, to reduce them to atoms. Then Smart Hulk snaps to bring back everything that Thanos removed, and finally Tony snaps to remove Thanos and his forces. So yeah, those four snaps, we know it releases energy, and we know the energy can change you, because some of what was it? The radiation is mostly gamma, and that's what turned Banner into the Hulk. And I mean, technically, that is, it's not gamma radiation that turned mutants into mutants in the comics, but I don't think it's really a major problem for it to be something like that. Or I guess they could say that he's technically also a mutant then. Anyway. And Dr. Lewis doesn't come with Monica and Jimmy. She continues. She's finding more stuff in the. Let's see. I really, we don't see what she turns into, what she looks like after the force field covers her. I'm really looking forward to. I saw at least one person joke that maybe she's just straight up gonna be her character from Two Broke Girls. But I'm really looking forward to. I don't think I've actually seen any of that show. I'm just aware that it exists. But I can imagine, she actually, yeah. Come to think of it, because next episode will be like 2010 or wait, 2000, 2010. Anyway, I think it might cover her era of sitcom. So her sitcom acting might be similar to. Anyway, Pietro brings up their parents, and there's also that bit where he talks about their childhood, and she's like, I remember that differently, and you have to wonder, is it because these memories are is because he's from one of the multiverse, wait, one of the alternate, he's from somewhere in the multiverse, so it's a different Pietro, and his childhood was at least slightly different. Is it because she's repressing memories of her previous life? There are some options there. Where were you hiding all these kids until now? I assume they were sleeping peacefully. You handled the ethical considerations and this in this scenario the best you could, and it's just and it's this thing of like, in a sitcom, yeah, sometimes the long lost relative that comes in pokes a little and prods and says, hey, when we were younger, you would do this and this, and now you're doing this and this, and I just I feel like you've changed. I think you've forgotten who you are, or stuff like that. And here he's basically he he's he appears to be aware of what she's done, what she's doing, and is talking very openly with her about it. And for a little bit, she actually admits that there's something going on. So yeah, and let's see. Yeah, the thing with the kids, I think Pietro's right. The he the she had them in like a deep sleep for all those days, because yeah, that's the thing, because why I'm not 100% sure exactly why yet, but now we know there are apparently kids in this town. If it's going to be Halloween, it would be creepy if there were literally only two kids in the entire town. So no, now the kids are out there, and it is this. I saw someone theorize that the reason that we haven't seen the kids, before now, was that it's harder for her to control children. She's not having a lot of luck controlling the twins, which again, sitcom is like, I thought that being a parent, you tell your kids to do a thing and then they do it, but instead you're going in this other direction, so it fits. But that's also like, if yeah, the Monica, she's being debriefed, and she says, I remember feeling this strong sadness, grief, loss, and someone theorized that that's something that an adult can understand, so she can take control of adults by it by accessing that. But children would have a harder, don't know these concepts as well, so it would be harder to control them. And yeah, I think that's, yeah. And Pietro directly references that Wanda is doing it with her powers. And I mean, it is this thing, like, in Age of Ultron, we do see she can, one of the things we see that she induces these, nightmarish. I quite like how Pietro's like making people see dreams and doing red wiggly woos with your finger, But we do also see near the end of Age of Ultron, she is controlling people and making them move to where she wants them to, So it is this, like, there is it was already part of her power, but we've never seen her do it with this many people. I'm not some stranger. I'm not your husband. You can talk to me. I don't know how I did it. I only remember feeling completely alone, empty, just endless nothingness. And she, and again, thinking back to before, she looks at Pietro and she sees him with the bullet holes, and like like his skin is gray, like the dead. Yeah. For a second, I thought that it would be Age of Ultron Pietro, but it's still Evan Peters. But that does tell us that she thinks of Pietro. Deep down she knows the last time she saw him, he was dead. But it also doesn't mean for sure that this is her Pietro. So, or even a Pietro. Technically, it could be that she plucked a stranger and gave him superpowers. Now, let's see. And yeah, Vision walks up to the force field and tries to go, yeah, and starts to go through, but right on the other side, there are the sword and the sword people, and it's clearly hurting Vision to be outside the force field. It takes him to his knees, and like parts of him start being taken apart and flying back into the force field, and it's I saw someone point out it looks a lot like that the House of M, I want to say, cover of the comic book, where like we see Wanda's face and like parts of it are being pulled off, and then the others, I think his name is Wiccan, so yeah, Wiccan becomes aware of it and goes running for Wanda, and Wanda's like, what is it? Well, remember how earlier you said that somebody better be bleeding or on fire? Well, you're gonna love this news. It's not like your dead husband can die twice, and she knocks him away with magic, and almost no one reacts. So it is at this point like she's using magic more and more in public, and people are reacting less and less. I mean, remember in the first two episodes, it was a big deal to hide the magic. Like the when she's trying to cook dinner for Vision's boss, and when they're doing the magic show, we have a lot of close calls. There are a lot of little things where they are almost caught doing something supernatural, but now, by now, she basically doesn't. Yeah, she said, what was that last episode? Maybe she said, "I'm tired of hiding," and now, yeah, she's she's done hiding basically, and brings us to, yeah, and Wiccan uses his psychic powers to see Vision outside, and Wanda freezes everyone, moves the force field, expanding it so Vision is inside again, and which we were warned in an earlier episode, hypothetically, she could move the force field, she could expand it, and yeah, the force field moves past Vision, he becomes whole again, and Dr. Lewis can't move, she's handcuffed, so she, what's it called? Yeah, the force field covers her, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what she's gonna look like in the sitcom world. And she's always like, "Oh, come on, guys, I can't move. Would you please?" You know. And yeah, the force field moves faster than they can't outrun it. So a bunch of them get, they get turned into like carnival people or whatever it's called, carnies, I guess, or circus performance, something, so it looks like they belong there. And very exciting scene as Hayward in a car tries to outrun the expanding force field, which keeps expanding and expanding. And cuts back to Wanda, whose eyes stop glowing red, and the episode ends, of course. And yeah, so we don't know. It seems like Haywood and the Wu and Monica did not get covered by the force field, I don't think. And yeah, I mean, next episode, presumably, Wu and right on the tip of my tongue, Monica will be able to enter the force field in that vehicle so they won't get hurt. Yeah, it's really coming to a head. I'm really. So there's what, 3 episodes left, I guess? 7, 8, 9. I think. Let's see. I swear, every new episode is my new favorite episode. I am so psyched to see where they go from here. So yeah, it confirmed Monica's DNA was altered by the force field. It's confirmed Vision literally can't survive leaving the force field, and we know that if the force field expands and you're caught within it, you get turned into someone who belongs in there. And then there were a few things I thought of hours after watching the episode. They're still depicting Pietro's powers the same as in Age of Ultron. He moves extremely fast, and you see this sort of like silver-covered trail. And sometimes we can see him moving extremely fast. Other times he's just a blur. Where, again, in case you don't remember, in the Fox X-Men movies, we saw time stop, and only he was, or it was moving extremely slowly, like we see in, for example, when he rescues everyone in the X Mansion. I did not warn that I was going to spoil X-Men. I'm going to have to add that. Yeah, sorry. Spoiling X-Men also, since I'm going to be talking about that Quicksilver, sorry. I will add that to the notes, and I will stop apologizing. Right, so because I apologize way too much. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, he in those movies, everything else moved extremely slowly, if at all, and we saw him moving like either some of the time at normal speed, some of the time slightly faster, but so far in this show we haven't seen time stop the way it did there. So it is still they are using that depiction of the let's see and let's see maybe the reason that Vision started falling apart when he left the force field is that inside the force field, Wanda's powers of telekinesis are holding him together, and he decays if not for them, since he has been dead for 5 years. And before she put his body back together, it had been split into pieces by sword. And the ending of this episode seems to very much adjust the status quo, since almost everyone inside the sword designated section outside the force field, I think Wu, Rambeau, and Hayward were outside of the force field when it stopped expanding. But yeah, all the other sword people are, were caught inside of it. So, and as far as Monica's relationship to Captain Marvel, we got the mysterious sentence by Hayward, something like, "I know your history with Captain Marvel," which, yeah, that suggests there's something there. And yeah, either will, Captain Marvel 2 either will depict it or will probably explain, unless though it's possible it'll be explained by the end of this miniseries. In this episode, it really did appear that Agnes, when not in sitcom mode, doesn't think that. Doesn't think that what Wanda is doing is something she should be doing. And in fact, she doesn't even know how Vision is alive again. So I guess she was just a red herring, but an argument could be made, or rather, an argument could be made that she was pretending so that Vision would be tricked, but she really didn't seem to be pretending. I'm not sure what she would get out of it anyway, because it didn't lead to him doing, like, yeah, he then goes out through the force field. I think he was gonna do that anyway. I think it's just that he, he was checking what would she say if I brought her back. Let's see. Vision is starting earlier and earlier in episodes to try to figure out what's going on, find a way to stop it. And this, he even managed to lie to Wanda about what he would be doing during the day so that she wouldn't know that he was going to find out what really is past Ellis Avenue. And it's this great thing of like, when we hear the the kids, like, clearly the kids have heard Wanda say it a million times, don't go past Ellis Avenue, so he's heard it too, and he knows that there must be something, it must have to do with magic. Let's see. When Pietro talks about that, he was shot and then suddenly he's here in Westview, it could refer to what happened in Age of Ultron, but it might also be that this guy was shot under different circumstances before he was brought back to life so that Wanda could use him as Pietro. Like maybe the when he got the call, maybe that was like a what's it called? Right on the tip of my tongue. Maybe there is basically like she tried to find someone who was similar to Pietro, so she managed to find someone who was shot to death, you know. But I still, I can't help but wonder if the kids heard the argument and wanted them to stop, so they decided, child logic, what will make, why is mommy so angry? I know, I'll get her that thing that she talks about missing. And so they, you know, we can put out a psychic message that, that Wanda missed Pietro, and Pietro thought that it was Wanda because he recognized the kind of message it was, and, realized that it took him to the house of Wanda, so he assumed it would be. And I don't know, I guess the last time I theorized that maybe he's like a sword agent who's been sent in, but yeah, there wasn't really, I'm not sure there was anything in this episode that suggests that backs up that theory, but I still do find it's a very creepy, the first thing, door opens and immediately says, yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna do the entire line. Well, does a long lost brother get to squeeze his sister to death or what? Something like that. It's an interesting way to phrase it. Squeeze to death. I'm not sure there's really been. I don't know that that's directly Yeah, I mean, is it possible that maybe their parents were squeezed to death when they talked about how the floor collapsed because of the rocket, the missile from Stark Industries? Maybe their parents were crushed and hence squeezed to death. It's just it's again, it straddles that balance beautifully. It could be just, I miss you so much I could squeeze you to death, but it's also like, maybe is that maybe one of her weaknesses? Like if you try to squeeze her, obviously shooting her doesn't work. Because Hayward's tried at least twice now. He trained guns on her, and she aimed those guns at him. He shot a missile or rocket. I forget what they're called, but the drone. He fired something from the drone at her. Didn't work. Didn't even like. She doesn't come out and she's like bruised and bloodied or something. No, she walks out just completely. It didn't phase her at all. She's annoyed, but she's not hurt physically. I have to wonder if the two child actors are better, maybe more comfortable with their characters in this episode than the previous episode because of the Malcolm in the Middle. I mean, yeah, it's possible that these kids, I mean, all the actors saw episodes of the sitcoms that they were supposed to imitate, but yeah, maybe the kids had an easier time imitating Malcolm in the Middle than, what was it, 70s kids, 80s kids? Crap, I've lost track. But yeah, because that's further away from their own age. I'm not entirely sure if it's that or it's just, I find child acting from the Malcolm in the Middle era to be more like less stilted or something than, previous era kids, and maybe the kids do a good job with both eras. I'm not entirely sure. But those were my prepared notes. I'm gonna real quick see if I can offhand remember anything else I wanted to bring up. Let's see. I do. Let's see. So there's the yeah. So again, the kids now both have their powers, which let's see the in I'm not 100% certain when they started developing powers in the comics, but definitely it does. It is this thing of like time progressing. Yeah, and like the superpowers are immediately very high, but like immediately Wiccan can sense vision on the outside of the force field, and immediately Speed can speed off. So isn't I feel like a lot of times when superheroes get their powers, at first it takes some practice, but here, time moves faster in the sitcom world, and let's see, I hmm, was there anything else? I agree. Some have said, like Paul Bettany apparently said that there's this amazing actor that he's been wanting to work with forever, and I agree that we haven't seen who that is yet. I forget, was it maybe that he said that near the end of the show it would, and we've already met Evan Peters. It's not the end of the show yet, so it can't be him. And was it maybe Elizabeth Olsen who said that there was going to be like a oh huh I guess that's technically a spoiler for that other thing. Anyway, she said it was going to be a really big deal, and excuse me, excuse me, I could also imagine that hasn't come up yet. I could imagine there's going to be at least one major character reveal in the last three, in a yeah, at some point in the last three episodes. And yeah, because it's yeah, and I'm still not sure if Wanda is going to be the villain of Doctor Strange 2 or one of the heroes. If Doctor Strange is going to be helping, if Wanda and Doctor Strange work together to fight some evil in the multiverse, perhaps Mephisto, who's absorbed the abilities of Speed and Wiccan, or if Wanda goes nuts and starts wreaking havoc in the multiverse and Doctor Strange has to stop her. That's another thing. Now that the kids have their powers, that's maybe the cue for Mephisto or whoever to take over, because that's what he wanted. As like once the kids have their powers, it's gonna help boost his power or something. And yeah, so it might be it's possible that there would be something in the next episode. I don't know, obviously, but the what's it called? Let me think. Yeah, before the end of the show, we'll know more about who's behind it. And I wonder if it's going to be one of those things where, like, there's a knock on the door and Wanda opens and she's like, you, and then credits, and we don't find out who it is until Doctor Strange 2, or if it's going to be that someone shows up, takes the kids, and speeds off, and Wanda is like, I can't take this guy down alone. I'm gonna need. And she holds up like the one of Doctor Strange's business cards, like we see in Ragnarok, appear when Loki gets disappeared. Before we realize that he has been falling for 30 minutes. But yeah, the let's see. Excuse me. I guess that is everything. But yeah, I really appreciate how they're playing with the dynamic between. I really appreciate that, you know, Pietro coming in, he gets to be like the cool uncle, and the kids are, you know, more misbehaved and such. I don't think it would feel right if Wanda or Vision was encouraging them to misbehave. And Malcolm in the Middle, there's a lot of kids acting, yeah. So that's a. But the let's see, what was I gonna was something. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, in the various episodes, they have different dynamics between the yeah, and yeah, actually, yeah, this is only the second episode that has the kids, past them right after having been born. So in the episode before this, it was a very special episode, and the kids were actually. I think maybe that's also like maybe the kids had a difficult time with the more harsh subject matter of that episode. Where in this they get to be kids, and so I mean when one of them is like, I'm the cool kid, you're the Dorcasaurus Rex. It's corny. It's very 90s dumb slang stuff. Yeah, I was here in the 90s. It was bad back then too, but it was what we had. Anyway, the that felt very natural coming out of the kids' mouths. That let's see, what was the other thing? The right, yeah, very special episode. Wanda is trying to teach them lessons and trying to be responsible and such. And now we have this episode where the kids are out trick or treating with the cool uncle, and they're misbehaving and all this stuff. It's really great how yeah, really, every single episode has changed the dynamic at least somewhat. There's been some change each time. Right. Another thing I want to mention, someone else pointed out, it goes by pretty quickly, but in the opening sequence, when they're running around with the home video camera and such, they film that Agnes is like bent over, reaching for something in the fridge, and there's like the word naughty is spelled across the back of her pants in the particular spot where, yeah, and it's possible that it's just, that's she's the kind of person who would wear something like that. I feel like her for someone who wears something like that, like your theme song should be tacky, by Weird Al Yankovic. Anyway, yeah, it's possible that that's just, oh, she's the kind of person who would wear that, but it's also possibly a little hint that she's doing something she shouldn't be, which is basically the dictionary definition of naughty. You're doing something you shouldn't be, and in this case, it happens to be that it's like superpowers and mind control and this kind of thing. But yeah, it's very difficult to, and the theories that Hayward is like the real bad guy here is, there's still that theory is still going strong, and certainly, yeah, someone pointed out that the fact that he just like that has Wu, Dr. Lewis, and Monica removed because they're arguing with him. They're not going along with what he wants. So he tries to have them removed because he doesn't want them interfering with what he's doing. And yeah, that is, I could imagine that he might be revealed to be at least one of the bad guys, and that maybe deep down the thing that especially bothers him is he was trying to turn Vision's body into a weapon. Again, this is I'm not saying I came up with this. The Easter egg people theorized that that's why he pulled apart Vision's body, and the reason he's upset with this whole state of events is that he wants Vision's body back from Wanda, and if he manages to kill Wanda, then he can retrieve it. And and it might actually be like, he refers to the 5 years between the dusting and the blip, and he might be extremely anxious. He might be thinking, this is the only way to be safe. We need something like Vision to help protect against. And yeah, it is. I'm very, very excited to see. But let's see. Is there anything else? I think that was everything for this episode. So yeah, let's see. That is anything else I think. Briefly about the ad, someone pointed out that this is perhaps the other ones seem to have a very clear, like, almost one-to-one, like, this is what it's a metaphor for, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the first one, the toaster, that's it beeps with the noise of a Stark missile. People have pointed out it sounds exactly like the missile that Tony almost gets blown up by at the start of the first Iron Man movie. And let's see, the second episode was the Strucker watch. He'll make time for you. That's Strucker, you know, doing illegal human experimentation on them. Let's see. The next one was like Hydra Soak, because they were in the hands of Hydra, and then it was Lagos with the blood. When you make a mess you didn't mean to. But this one, and it's also, this one is easy. Like, there's more wiggle room for like interpretation. Is the person, the kid that dies from starvation and then rots? Is that Wanda deteriorating? Is it Vision, who without Wanda would be falling apart? Without Wanda's magic? Yeah, yeah, really, really excited to see where it goes, and they're doing a really good job with the mystery. They're giving us just enough information. I mean, it's 9 episodes. I could understand if someone watched the first episode and then said, "There's too many unanswered questions here. This is just." But they're trying to find a balance between enough questions left unanswered that we're really excited about next episode. A week, it is a while to wait for answers when you know, a lot of the time today we don't have to wait very long to get, like, when there's something we really badly want, we don't necessarily have to wait very long, especially when it comes to entertainment. And but yeah, they give us just enough answers that we feel like it's not a waste of time watching the episode, and in addition to being enjoyable watching, and leaving just enough questions that we're not like, well, I know exactly where it's going, so why would I keep watching? Yeah, it's been a really long time since I was this hyped about a mystery in Yeah, especially for so long. But yeah, that is absolutely everything. So I hope you enjoyed watching, as I enjoyed watching and recording, and I'll catch you next time.